Welcome back, everyone, to One Mic Night podcast with Marcos Luis. Today, the conversation is very serious. We're getting into some world politics. My guest today is incredible. He's an influential leader in humanitarian efforts around the world, and you're going to meet him in just a moment. But I want to tell you a little bit about what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about his organization, and we're also going to be talking about the war in Gaza and Israel, in addition to all the protests that have been going on in the United States and across the world due to that conflict. So just to give you a little brief history, the Gazan and Israeli conflict is a localized part of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which began back in 1948 when 200,000 Palestinians fled or were expelled from their homes, and they settled in the Gaza Strip as refugees. So since then, Israel has fought 15 wars against the Gaza Strip. The number of Gazans reportedly killed in the most recent war in 2023, 34,000. It's higher than the death toll of all the other wars of the Arab-Israeli conflict. Now, we're going to get into that today, so sit by, listen up, and let me know what you think. Write some comments down below. This is One Mic Night Podcast with Marcos Luis. Stick around. Hi, everyone, and welcome to One Mic Night, the podcast that brings you stories of artists and people on their journey, helping to guide, answer questions, and motivate you in life and the business. You already know who I am. It's Marcos Luis, and I'm back. Thank you for joining me for more Season 5 of the podcast. Today, I'm extremely excited. We're going around the world. We're talking about the world politics. The guest today is an educator, he's a facilitator, he's a global citizen, and he's also the founder of leadforimpact.com. Please welcome Kobi Skolnick to One Mic Night. How you doing, Kobi?
Good. Thanks for having me, Marcos. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Thank you for joining me. I know you've got a busy schedule, so I appreciate you taking time out to join us here. We're going to learn some stuff today. I know that for sure. First question, who is Kobi Skolnick?
Oh, this is the hard question nowadays. And this environment, but let's dive in, right? I know you for many years, so we had the chance to see my evolution. But if you ask me 15 years ago, it would be a different answer, right?
Yeah.
But who I am today is a global citizen, passionate about change, passionate about truth, passionate about fact, passionate about activism, passionate about the realities, the complexity that we are in, and sharing knowledge, tools, and with people that care to create the changes that we need. In summary, if we say it that way. But when you ask me again who I am today, it's a little bit more difficult, because I grew up in Israel, and it's a hot topic now everywhere. And I was a soldier, and I also, though, been peace activist, and I work with Palestinians and Lebanese and all of my neighbors to do peace building activities. And then I have been here in New York for 22 years. So my grandfather is from Brooklyn, actually now not far from where we met, I discovered. Um, but he came to New York from Valores area back in the day. And then my father grew up in the Bronx, but my mother is half Libya, from Libya, and half Turkish.
Mm,
Uh, and half of my life I live in Israel and half of my life here. And in Israel, I had the opportunity to live in the ultra-Orthodox community that we also know from Brooklyn, and as a settler for a while, and as a secular Jew. So I had this um, evolutionary journey of becoming from like a 10 siblings, Orthodox family, to slowly discovering and opening the horizon to understand life, understand the complexity, and understand my space in it, and given time, and what can I do and impact in a positive way. But along the way, there's many stories that some of them you heard, and some of them we're going to share soon.
beautiful. What do you attribute that evolution to? How did that all come about? I mean, it sounds like you were destined to be a global citizen, but along the way, a lot of people don't have that sort of evolution. What do you attribute that to? What was the thing that opened your eyes and you just started metamorphosizing into the person that you are?
That's 7 hours podcast questions of lives, but thank you. I think there's not one thing. I think curiosity, I think asking questions, these are simple things. I think asking deep questions about what people tell you, if it was my rabbi when I was a kid, or later as a soldier, or later working with the other leaders on global change. Um, Asking questions, not taking for granted what the world is telling you, but also having, I worked a lot on inner value systems, on maintaining my purpose, maintaining the teams, the network, the environment that I'm in, so I can do the things and the vision that I want to do. Um, I think I missed on something here, so maybe we need to cut this. Sorry. Um, can you ask the question again?
Yeah,
Do you not?
what do you attribute that evolution to? What were the things that stimulated that?
Marcus, I don't think it's things in particular. I think it's like a emotion experiences that you accumulate along the way that create this like arc of narrative and engagement that nourish you as you go along. So I think it's more some qualities that I actually contribute to my ultra-Orthodox upbringing, asking questions. And we're in the Jewish traditional asking a lot of questions. Um, Sometimes you ask the wrong people questions, the authority that in your environment, and that creates some tension. So I always ask questions. I ask when I was Orthodox, and then I went and found ways through this questioning, sometimes not to a good way. So for instance, um, when I wanted to move from ultra-Orthodox, I asked a question of identity, but I was a teenage, and my parents were divorcing in an ultra-Orthodox community, which is a big deal. Um, so I got into the cool kids in the neighborhood, and the cool kids in my environment were this like extreme far right group.
Mm,
We call them Kahana. Unfortunately, nowadays they're all the way in the Israeli government, some of them. But that teenagehood years, as I was trying to figure out who I am with this transition, I got engaged with this really, looking back, like far right group basically that goes and a strong far right group that there's a tradition, there's like books, and you go engage in activities that are basically violence. Um, so um, from a young age, I ask, and then through the questioning, I engage with sometimes crazy things, and then I keep going. So I didn't stay far right for long. I did went to a Yeshiva high school in the West Bank, so I got into the settlement community, the settlers, that many people here don't understand the differences and it's the complexity of it. But I went to a different community within Israel. But when I was there, I was present, so I know good people from there. But at the same time, the conflict was intensifying. So I witnessed how the conflict impacting people, how um, people
Is
are
that is
dying.
that an average thing for people there? I mean, are most people conscious? Are they most people present to what's going on in a way that would make them connect and even maybe shift their way of thinking or widen their scope of thinking? Is that a normal
No,
thing? Yeah.
no, it depends where you live and how you upbringing.
Hmm.
This is where and I hope we had a chance to talk about the complexity of the conflict here, because many people said Israel or Palestinian is a one big group, but within each society, there's so many layers. Even like when we talk about churches here or different stream of Christianity, in Palestinian Israeli society, there's like even deeper layer. So each of those layers have historical roots in many, many ways, including trauma, and then um, and then within lived experience. So when I'm talking like in those broad stroke of my generation, I'm almost 42, and our generation, but we witnessed so much disasters and death in this conflict. So October 7 happening, it is accumulation of many years of horrible small steps. And then, um, but how is impacting the Israeli society and how is impacting the Palestinian society and is how impacting this society? We now seeing it on the streets, on the campuses. So this questioning from being an Orthodox Jew to becoming to go to a settlement environment and education, and then going to be a secular Jew in Tel Aviv, and then coming here, I had this opportunity to engage deeply in the human level with all of those communities. And then when I came to New York, and I met you at the time, I also started to engage with Palestinian community and Palestinian friends, and started to break those enemy images that fuel the conflict. And I remember coming to New York, I had this big dream, and I think some of it we talked about in between at work. Um, I will learn everything from biology to sociology to DNA, why people kill each other. Why a young Palestinians went to my friends when they had played basketball and shot him. Simple question.
Right.
I don't care what the media tell me. I wanted to understand, and I went and I came to New York with that question. Maybe we should start it there in the editing. Sorry. Like I came to New York after a terrible, terrible, terrible loss of friends in due to the conflict. And I remember like my passion was no, I don't know English. But I will go and learn how to be a brain surgeon or how to be like in the medical field. Because I want to save life. I saw how can you save life so fast? And the other question in my head was why? Why young people kill each other when they have so many other opportunities? And people will laugh at me. I will work in coffee shop and read all these books. Some of them are still here. Um, I will go to meet Palestinians, and I really ask the question, maybe in the beginning in a naive way, um, to really understand it, and then I got into deep way. And I remember going to Brown University back in 2000, I don't know, mid 2000s, and having activities, and then someone told me, "Oh, you should come study here," because at the time I went to BMCC for many years. Um, I'm sure your audience know the Borough
Hmm.
Manhattan Community College, which was a wonderful experience for me. And then I went to be in a social activism with Palestinians to show that people believe in peace many, many years ago on campuses. Um, and and there was no then there was not already deeper understanding of the complexity. Sorry, I'm losing. This is what I told you. I can go on and on. I need to cut.
That's okay. I want to say this. I think
Yeah.
first of all, it's a beautiful story.
Mhm.
So what happens is that essentially what we want is human connection.
Mhm.
Hatred and fear is, that's something that's learned. Fear is something we do to ourselves, but the hatred is something that's learned. Okay. We all want the human connection. So being in a place where, one group of people feels one way about something and this group feels one way, there's all that hatred. But once you get together and you break down all that fear that we have, that's where the connection begins. That's where the healing begins. That's where we begin to change the world. With that, we do it it's like an inverted pyramid. We
Right.
start on the grassroots level. You and I, different, come together, we talk, and we find out that we're actually not that different. We have
Yeah.
the same needs. And then we in turn pass that on to the next person and pass it on to the next person. And it goes up like this. So in effect, what we're doing is we end up changing the world with that, with our knowledge and connection with each other.
Yeah.
So that's where the passion began for you.
Yeah. And this is um breaking point though. This is a breaking point in that thinking. And I want to be honest. And I don't know how I can edit it later, but there's something here. Because for many Israeli and Palestinians that worked on peace building or work on dialogues and stuff, this is for many, many years, and I'm connected and friends with hundreds of organizations. Um, that idea failed to prevent the death, to prevent the process of radicalization within societies over a long period of time. It's happened also in the US as well. And I want to connect 2 points here, right? Because in one hand, we want that. We want to create a society where we can touch each other pain, we can translate the deeper human needs, um, and then connect there. That's in the interpersonal. But our political system are not designed like that.
Right.
They're polarizing. The
Right.
campuses, the wave of campuses in one hand is a good example, is embody this contradiction. Because in one hand, those students and I've been wanted change and they want to stop horrible mass atrocity on innocent people. That is complex why we're here. It's a fault of everybody here. But that's a good thing. And at the same time, if you take in slogans of a jihadist group or Hamas group, and you don't understand how that translates on the ground, we're in a
Right.
serious problem. So
Huge problem.
we're creating a gap between we are for social justice, but be careful what you justify or what you embrace along the way. Because in this conflict, for instance, in Israeli-Palestinian conflict, there is peaceful solution. Unfortunately, we got here because nobody was talking about it, besides people like me and many that warned from the bubbles that are for so many years. But there is a solution. There was a solution many years, but the extreme forces within each society together with the lived experience, which is real,
Hmm.
create those dynamics that are real. So when a nice Jewish boy, excuse me, come to the campus, is a different when Israeli that grew up and lost along the last 20 years many of his friends that saw somebody got shot, they saw suicide bombing, right? This is a generation. Same thing with the Palestinians. This is awful, awful.
Yeah.
They've been growing up like that. And then American kids come and he gets into it without understanding. You can
Understand.
still stop war. We're against war. We're against atrocity. Israel is not justified to do it, what they did fully.
It's
You don't
not
have
that simple.
but you don't have to embrace polarization.
Right.
There is two-state solution, still an opportunity. There is ways to have peaceful relationship. In fact, there is peaceful relationship within. There is 2 million. There's Israeli society is not as black and white. Um, and there's an opportunity here. Still, today is May 3rd, almost noon. There's still an opportunity in the next 2 months to channel that energy that comes from the campuses to something more meaningful. Because by pushing it and talking about the campuses and the violence that evolved, what happened is that the media is taken away from the real war, real suffering. Have something concrete that could change those lives, but also stay engaged. Marcus, why you know over this where everybody was in Syria
Right,
when Hezbollah in Iran and other militia killed civilians almost 600,000.
right,
Yeah, I did things. You know it. I helped and tried to do things. Syria, now Sudan, now. There's millions of Sudanese fleeing from horrible
right,
atrocities. Actually, the world is not giving attention to it because of the camps too, at least in my opinion, in terms of not because everybody's suffering. It's not to compare suffering, right? It's like, hey kids, if you are going for human rights and that, let's go all the way.
right,
Bring done, bring everything, and stay engaged until the world government taking those conflicts into a solution.
right. It's
So
it's like the
I mean,
world is closing their eyes to that whole situation.
yeah, and like, and it's not the only one.
It's not the only one, right?
There's more disasters. Let me be bleak for a second because that's another hat of my work, right? I have the pleasure to work with a lot of international organizations on humanitarian delivery in humanitarian high complex environment. The world is not going well. Look, the trend in climate disaster are going crazy. Um, the trend in armed conflict, I'm serious, this is the notes, going crazy, right? Trend forced displacement, all the graphs are horrible. Um, Global internal displacement, humanitarian access, all of those major things, when we look forward to the next 5, 10 years, we're in trouble. So if you engage and you say you the next leaders on the this is yes, keep going. But then what's the complexity here? Are you for? I don't care if you're Zionist or non-Zionist. This is small for me, but be careful not to inflame the complexity of the conflict. And then what can we do now to help the people on the ground? There's movements of peace. There's people who want peace. There's a whole ecosystem and organization and leaders that want peace, but it would take a while because there's a lot of
There's a
historical,
lot to be, yeah.
lot
And
of
and this
trauma.
is this is what some of the organizations that you work with do, and especially I know Lead for Impact. Some of the things you do, I want to say you have curriculum development, transformational leadership development, managing change, innovation and creativity, conflict management,
Mhm.
training focus, negotiation. Tell us about some of those things and how they relate.
It's interrelated. It's interrelated to this. We talked about this story and professionalism and journey and evolution of self and how you do your best to find the things that you can, when you do it fully, there's a greater impact. And so along the way of my evolution, I realized one thing. Not only me, many people before me, right? People passionate about change. I saw it since I'm a little boy, right? They take to the streets. I was part of Occupy Wall Street. I was part of climate change. I was many movements because I believe in it. You have this energy, people on the street, you're there, people talk, you see it's beautiful. You're like, oh my God, if we translate this, we have a change, we have an impact. But usually what happens is like, oh, and then it goes down. And the only question is how much you capture of that energy and translate it either to policy or to a real change. And what I discover is that along the way, not only in social movement, also in government and also in big international organization, there's a missing elements of purpose value align with skill and community.
Mm,
What I mean by that is like there's technical knowledge that many job description need to know. There's the reality of the world we live in. And I have the pleasure to work with organizations like UNICEF and UNFPA that works on the front line of humanitarian disasters and etc. And then there's this fundamental change that's happening in front of us for me for many years, and but there's good energy within and idealism, but always Some of it is translated well into politics or into good organization and good people doing good things. But many times these opportunities that we miss over and over again. And there's a lot of things that could be predicted. Even January 6th among, not predicting in details, but that energy that will bubble and you could read it online and people that research it. And I know that my colleagues were sending each other texts and articles about something is coming, you know? So I'm not sure if I'm losing my train of thoughts here, because what I'm trying to say is that the solution to many of world problems, it's not like a crazy innovative something will come and is people in process in a room. Start there. Okay.
Right.
People in the process in a room. People are diverse, old, young, have a very deep, different skills, different psychology. Okay. So I need to know all of those things. And then they have a purpose and value and direction. If it's an organization, I usually work with organizations, easier job because there's a social driven mission. So then like, hey, so when it's not working, what is not working? How can I get information from each person and then as a whole and support them in the best way I can, with the best tools I can? So if it's a team that work in the front line of a large scale humanitarian disasters,
Mm-hmm.
I'm asking myself, what do they need? At this level and this level, at this level, I'm communicating with everybody else. Then I will create the soft skill with the technical skill, make it in a fun, interactive way, but also along the way, build a community. Hey, we're all here to save kids or to save humanity in these ways.
Is the goal to create a policy?
Mhm.
Uh, is the goal to create policy when you get all these people together
The goal is
for the
create
change?
whatever that team is working to hurt. Some of them will work through policies, some of them will work to hurt the work plan for the
Mhm.
next year. Some of them will work on a complex example, a complex problem. I'll give you a quick example of complex problem that you can simplify. And I did this year, last this year. Um, there's cholera outbreaks in many more countries now because of COVID, and there's decreased funding in many places for hygiene, etc., and unfortunately more displacement. So let's say 10 years ago there was 10. I'm not saying the exact number, 10 outbreaks. Now it's like 30.
Mm.
Okay, that means
Mhm.
how the world responds to it have to accelerate in a short period of time. Because cholera is one of those things that if you identify well, you can decrease the damage and death, right? But it happened in many places. So this specific organization couldn't respond to all of them, but it's a real need right now. And if you know the waves of how it works, you really want to intervene in the right time in the right place. So what can I do? They ask me, what can you do? So thankfully, I had a good team and some experience before and access. So I got all of the best world expert on cholera, but also the logistic person, but also the doctors. And I got all the stakeholders that they are responsible for the response. Then I get the data of the country, right? The real data. So
Mhm.
what is
Sure.
missing and all the red lines. And then you build the first hour will do like something warm to like we here for something really real. If we focus and do well, we save lives, not a maybe. And then we do that for a few minutes, and then we dive into the how you handle it. And there is a simulation, how phase one, phase two, simulation, reflection, debrief, and then they go. But they have a community now to come back. Hey, I need this, I forgot this, right? And then they come back again and again. But then you focus on where the red spot of the colors are, and you get the people in the hospitals from there. You get the regional people that do the logistics in the room too. So you see what I mean? So
Right.
you to map the problem and you get a stakeholder, and then again you go to those levels that we talked about. Purpose, action, um, and making them together in a real way, man, if we do it well, don't let your ego, don't let your interpersonal, sorry, bullshit to, this is life-saving, focus. And then in that energy, you can do it in all organization, but you have to maintain the soft skills, the support system to show people that they influence the macro system as well.
The
Now,
consistency, yeah.
yeah. So now now I'm sorry I'm jumping, but I want to go back to this trend that we're talking about and how it's related to the campuses and the energy that the social energy that we have. Because we know, like let's say a balcony view of what's happening in the worldwide, right? There's so many changes from Syria, from Ukraine and Russia, that is a big deal. Europe is getting much more money to defense and more weapons. Unfortunately, when there's more weapons, that means the war will come. By now we know that. And then many people are exposed to horrible pictures from Gaza, and before that, Europe was exposed to Ukraine and Russia, and still is. Is a whole generation, Marcus, a whole generation under us that exposed to extreme pictures of violence and
Exactly.
everywhere. And it's difficult to process this. And people don't even talk about secondary trauma. And then the learning how about peaceful movements and Vietnam on the campuses in this semester, and they seeing what happened and they're getting on the street. That's a good thing. But then, as we talked earlier, we need to do better in terms of um, to understand what's going on and how it can impact for long term too in all of the other places, because that generation um, have a lot of work to do. This is a microcosm.
It's become normalized for them. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
knowing this war, seeing this stuff in real time, seeing all the violence on TV, the war, what's happening here specifically, like we were talking about at Columbia University and these universities, the fighting, the barricades, the police, now we're seeing footage of what's happening with those incidents where the police are throwing people down the stairs, and are the police being held accountable? And, there's so many dynamics based on
exactly.
people trying to,
And all of those dynamics, where they're coming from, back to my own country, right?
Mhm.
To the dynamics there. So it's important to understand that global dynamics impact the local dynamics.
Right.
And I've been saying that for 20 years, as you know. And even in October 19, I wrote on Medium, I wrote this blog trying to tell activists and academia exactly from this trap of um, citing, knowing to understand the values and what we're against, but also know what we are for. What are you for? Ceasefire,
Mhm.
but what after? Two-state solution, one-state solution, kill all the Jews, kill all the Palestinians. Like, be real. There's 50 million people live there, half Palestinians, half Israelis. Very mixed. Is nobody going to disappear from the ground, even if you don't like Zionism and you really don't like it. And doesn't mean it's going to disappear. Be realistic, um, do we need to start? All the other political and points are different. But let me try to put the conversation in a because I feel like we went in many
We're going,
different.
yeah, we're going a lot of places.
Yeah. So let's try to put it together in one way, for me at least, because I want to connect with you and of course ask me question. What's happening in the campus is to my own little story and what I've been doing, because I do want audiences to know there's this opportunity here for US to transform a lot of things here, even in this election cycle, but also outside. But the question is the commitment and not just being like a cool things for 1 minute on Instagram. If you want to engage deeply in what's happening in the world, there's ways, and stay engaged and don't just go on one process and then leave that issue. Me and Jamal went from 2009 to protest.
Right.
2009, few times. Now we to 2024. Look what's happening. Um, but I want to put it in like try to put it in one way for me, because and it's going back even to the question who I am, right? Because I think clearly is a journey and evolution, and I'm at you curious and wanting to engage and change your mind. I believed in human connection always. And through that space, I was able to really expand my identity within so I can accommodate more, even contradiction. What do I mean by contradiction? My brothers are settlers. One of them is in the army now. Um, my father is ultra Orthodox. Two of my brothers are secular. most of them, some of them far right, some of them center right, right? My friends are Palestinians, Israeli, the Lebanese, on a daily basis. Like today and yesterday, I spoke with Palestinians. We're working on project, right? Um, so I live that peace all the time. Even in October 7, the first few people I called were Palestinians, you know? So I wish people could know that it's possible, but it's possible if you're willing to look in the mirror, like
Mm,
in a really deep way.
yes.
I'm talking self,
Introspection.
socially, and what's happening before us, because
Right.
everybody has a strong opinion, but we never experience this complexity, Marcus. To what happened in October 7, I think many people here, this is not to justify in any way how the war is happening. I'm talking about the
Tell us.
psychological aspect of it.
Right. I want to know. This is what I want to
And
know.
what happened in October 7, and I remember I was sitting right here trying not to look at my phone in the morning, and then I saw um, happen in a very deep psychological way. One, in the north where the attack happened um, and it was ongoing. That means that there's all the videos live and multiple level recorded. Remember that this is important. One. Second, the brutality. I'm talking about now specifically Hamas and other groups attacking civilians and soldiers in Israel. The brutality was, I worked in every conflict zone. The brutality of the act itself. It's not a bomb, it's horrible, but like the interpersonal space, right? Um, the beheading, the killing of the kids in front of the parents, like horrible. The party, Marcus, it was a beautiful party, multicultural, gay, trans, everybody was there having fun. Palestinian, Israeli, everybody, and hundreds, almost 400 of them died in a brutal way. Um, and people did not understand those things. And then on the campus, on the kibbutz, many of the people who got killed are the leaders of the peace movement. They're like my friend that created non-governmental organization that they brought kids from Gaza to Tel Aviv. They did a lot of good things from a social activism perspective. That's one. But the way the killing happened touched the Israeli psychology and the Jewish psychology goes 2,000 years. And I think that many people did not understood that it's going back to my, at least in my generation or my family line, to the pogroms. My family ran away from World War II to New York, right? My mom family ran away from two other countries to Israel, from Libya and Turkey. And then the the helplessness that people did not have for 12 hours, that's the Israeli problem, did not couldn't access the army and it failed, right? And then the kidnapping, why you kidnap kids?
Right.
Those things are
Yeah.
real. And then they didn't come out of the vacuum. It comes out of self-fulfilling prophecies for all of those levels within the society that we're talking about. So if I grew up far right and for 40 years, everybody tell me Palestinians will come to your kids and take a knife and kill you like that. I'm sorry that I'm saying it like that. I'm not showing, this is not for polarization, right? So, to understand. And then it happened psychologically, you become a for right? Same happened in the Palestinian society. When you always said the army will come and slaughter you, when it comes and slaughter you, you're not becoming more peaceful, right?
Right.
And you talk about years that this have been happening in a small way, now in a big way, but in a big way that touch the psychology of a collective that not many people understand. It's a historical trauma in a collective that created a whole new images of trauma to that society and individuals over and over again for long periods of time. It's not even over,
Right.
right? So then the logical response of the war, it's not a logical response. There's no logical response to this war. So in the first few days, I saw this happening because of my knowledge of the conflicts. And I called a lot of people and wrote a few articles and trying to tell people this is deep. Now, this is happened. And this is another layer that people did not get because they don't like to think security. But security in our region is real. So if a lot of Israelis army will not come in the October 7. Remember, we're talking about October 7, what happened
Yeah.
after we talk. But they stop the Palestinian fighters from coming in. It was like a big people like tried to save their family, and many of them volunteered and came. So it stopped. It was a second episode where another thousand of people will come and continue to other cities. And people here didn't get, oh, they went to cities and went to houses and like
Mm.
killed everybody in their houses, right? And then they had planned to take more cities. So the response for Israel to hold and is ongoing is not only the physical aspect of October 7, is the what if. We didn't stop it, but also don't forget there's Hezbollah from the north. And Iran, as we could see, could fire all these missiles. So if all of those things will come together, Israel will almost completely eradicated from Earth on October 7. And this is then why the psychology of it is deeper, because it was not just this, because other societies like Syria, not far from Israel,
Hmm.
did not have army, and look what happened to them.
Right.
600,000 died in brutal way. So this is October 7th. Now, how Israel reacted and did these horrible things and mass atrocity from my perspective, but also understand the defense in the first few days and eradicating the capacity to do it again because the other group said they want to do it. So now, when you talk to a college campus here, I come to them and I went to Colombia and I want to be real with them. Do they have dozens of friends got killed, and some of them October 7. In fact, some of them doing project with Palestinians now, and there was not a depth of conversation, right? Um, so I think that the understanding of the local dynamics and the deeper aspect of October 7 on Israel society will inform a lot of things that happen after. And because people didn't do it, they react in a way that create, together with the dynamics in Israel itself, inner Israel politics and inner Palestinian politics, we in 7 months war shouldn't be here. There's no reason
Right.
for suicide.
So
But though,
do you think that the people that are protesting here now, they're just protesting on the genocide that's happening? That's what they're fighting for.
I
And they're
think
not there's no like you just gave us the psychology of the whole thing. But what the people are protesting for, in my opinion, is the genocide that's happening.
no, yeah, and there's mass atrocity and genocide. There's a whole spectrum here.
Right.
I'm personally call it mass atrocities, which is not
Okay.
less inhumane and horrible than genocide,
Hmm.
but it's two different things. However, and here's the complexity. Sorry, Marcos. Some aspect of Israeli society are genocidal, meaning the far right group that don't believe the Palestinians should be exist, and some of them in governments. Israeli society as a whole is not genocidal. Now, if people within it, including soldiers, did horrible act on the ground, yes. So everybody that have a point of view to have black and white, get it reinforced because the reality reinforces your point of view. But if you expand it, you're starting to see, oh, Hamas is to blame too, same as Israel. They had an opportunities in the macro level. But when you come back to the campuses, what I'm saying is, yes, protest. Well, just know and stay engaged for the next few years to bring a peaceful resolution. By peaceful resolution, that means you need to understand security, but people don't want to understand it on a campus level in those conversations. Um, and I think that's a difficult part. Like you need to understand both multiple perspective
Hmm.
and bring me back to the work and organization that we created to do to actually tackle that, right? It's called Interact.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I sent you or saw that my friend Aziz, who lost his brother, and my friends Maoz, who lost both of his parents, they did this TED Talk when they straightly talk to each other
Hmm.
about, and it's called Palestinian Face Israeli or something like that. And it got almost 3 million views within a short period of time. And this is what I want to connect. Yes, protests, but these voices of peace that we need to bring to the table that shed light on the complexity, and they know a way forward within both societies, but not in a single TikTok. It takes 25 years. Peace building
Right.
takes
Because
25
the whole
years.
situation is years
Yeah.
old. It's not just, it's so
Yeah.
complex.
So, but if you want to engage and back the American government to push Israel to do so, then you can actually have a peaceful solution within like few years. Um, but I
Well, I
don't think
don't think
there's any.
the protesters are not protesting to react to what Israel did. They're protesting to one, stop and to divest from Israel right
Mhm.
now, to keep them from furthering that type of thing. Um, they're not, and the ironic thing is that some of these protesters are actually creating a little war in the location that they're protesting in.
Yeah,
They're
yeah, that's what
breaking
I'm saying.
laws.
There's a lot of contradiction. Yeah, it's a lot of
And that's
contradiction.
that I don't like.
No, I think it's a good space to connect the dots. Like complexity is increasing. There's no black and white
Right.
anywhere. This system thinking help us to analyze and see patterns and the roots of it, right? But um, when this is not going to change, Marco, this is going to be worse
Right.
unless people get engaged in different way. And what I mean by different ways, have the courage to hold both perspectives. I'm not talking about the political things, about the people. Israelis are human and
Hmm.
Palestinians are human. And can I see their narrative, how they got here, and who I am in the self and the historical forces happening now?
Absolutely.
Can I
What's the
look at it
essence?
in a
Yeah.
human way? You
Right.
know, then how my biases inform me how I see those two stories. If you cancel one side story, you part of the war. You see, you cannot cancel people. I'm not talking canceling the cultural references here,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I'm saying, oh, Jews shouldn't, cannot have a state. Um, it's more complex than that, you know?
Right.
Um, the Palestinians shouldn't, there's no Palestinians, then I'm not talking to you, right? People who completely delete the other story
Right.
is a problem for me. And I think on campuses, I saw all of it. So, meaning, I saw anti-Semitism brutally in my face. I saw beautiful people that I spent in the camp at Columbia. I spent a bunch of time. It's wonderful conversation, value-based. They're not stupid. They know what they're talking about.
Hmm.
And I can see the analysis of the Israeli society is much lacking, and Palestinian society is an insight. But I like the value. Again, we like that young people engage, but stay engaged for a long time and get the skills and the networks to take that engagement to policy, to take that engagement to result, not only staying in a nice, oh, I saw it myself in CNN. Oh, I'm so cool
Right.
in TikTok. Stay
As you
engaged.
mentioned before, as you mentioned before, exactly that, getting these people together and
Mhm.
sitting down and talking and negotiating a solution and
Mhm.
take that to try to make the policy.
Yeah, yeah.
We can
And
have peaceful protests. We can have, go out there, say what you want, have your flag. We're not promoting any kind of anti anything, Semitism, um, Islamic culture, none of that. You can say what you're for, but we have to be peaceful in the way that we do these things.
yeah, I don't know. I think Marcus, I dream like I didn't no, I did it here. Like I had this dream like when I came here, right, to understand why people kill each other, and I went all the way. And this is maybe another conversation. Then I learned it fully, right? I went to college and literally studied it and did presentation back in 2016. All of those presentation and research show that there's an inter-psychological processes. This is what I wanted to give the social aspect of it, and that the policy and people not looking at that. And there's
Right.
always information there about human emotions and history and how the energy of the conflict is evolving. So for me, the generation or what I want to share with young people now is like stay engaged. This is complex, but find solution that share that and enrich and making everybody thrive. It doesn't mean that you compromise on values, but you have to have a moral imagination when you can see both and rise above it and create things that not only decrease polarization, but like have a real foreign policy impact. But
Absolutely.
at the same time, it's real, Marcus, but it's real. This is what I'm saying. Like, what happened with the Iranian missiles? It was like a Muslim, Jewish, Christian collaboration, and people here don't get it. Like there was crazy missiles attack that from the last 50 years, the biggest attack of big missiles, right? And toward one country, and everybody around collaborate.
Right.
U.S., Jordan, Egypt, Israel, a whole. Oh, so collaboration could happen, but look when. And also, but that's a real thing. So when you're on campus and you said Israel divest or this, it doesn't work in the real world because those attacks are real. That's what I'm trying to tell people. It's not, it's really important on campus to talk, but remember, this is real. It's not only in the screen. I'm not trying to be preachy. The consequences of how you talk have a real consequences on the ground too. But we can also understand how to channel it toward solution or at least depolarization. And I know that I did on March 4th, I went with Palestinian leaders and Israeli leaders to Congress and Senate, met some congressmen, met different offices, and we communicate really well to do multilateral negotiation to stop the war and release the hostage and work really on the famine. And because we came as a group of both society, we were listened to. They gave us many more hours than we thought. And afterward, we could see a policy change, a real policy change that had impact on the ground, like in the next 2 months. A real, like, oh, we sat in the room, we showed them who we are, we gave them intervention space that they can do. They listened. Some of them took it, some of them not. But then there was result. People got more food. People got more water. But if I was like, no, this, I will just be like, no. How can we take this power and do something with result? So how can we conclude or close it in this? We went
I
all over
think
the
I
place.
was, you know what? No, I was
Methodology.
just going to say that's the beautiful thing is that's what we're actually looking for. How do we get a result, a
Mhm,
good working result?
mhm,
And you, like you said, you get all these people together who are diverse, who have ideas, who have their ideas, and you put them together and you come up with a solution that works for everyone. That's what we're
mhm.
looking for. This whole situation that we're talking about is so complex. It goes years, it spans 2,000 years. There's
Right.
no solution that's going to happen tomorrow.
No, no.
There's
But what we
absolutely no
can do
solution that's going to
now,
happen.
but what we can do now on the campus is like, how can we reduce the polarization? How can we embrace different opinion? How can I sit and I did it here in this room with many different opinion and show the young generation that we can go through it. It doesn't need to escalate, right? And that we can have a deeper conversation. At the same time, politicians need to respond too. So what I'm trying to say is this. I think maybe this is a good putting it together. Let me know if it works, right?
Mhm.
So remember we said like many times there's a social awakening and the system of oppression or system of not producing life-serving things coming up and everybody can see it. A lot of people are like, this is not good, not good. But no one sometimes give alternatives.
Right.
And we hear again. And what I'm afraid is that what happened in Russia and Israel and Palestine will happen with climate change. What I mean by that is that no one else will take the bigger problem of society on. We are, like the people of this generation. And I'm talking about from 20 to 60 of support from all of others, right? Like those big challenges that I'm showing you here, all these like looking trends, right? All of this, what's happening. This is not a maybe. You look at the data, disasters are increasing. This weird raining in Saudis and even in rich developing country, in a second, there's a huge flood. There's a humanitarian system that is not responding well because the global humanitarian system, because of cuts and there's increased disaster. And then we in a generation that have all of the knowledge and the system to see it and still fail over and over again. So how we create results, again, for me, is a personal commitment of self-reflection of what is my purpose in this life, and can I align my daily work to the societal changes that I want and maintain them, and support people who are doing it. Like, honestly, there's some of the work that I do, but to do the work, no one else is doing it. So if all humanitarian or whole systems are collapsing, there's no one else will rebuild them. This
Right.
is us, this generation, and I think people don't get it yet. So when you said Israel Palestine, this is you now. It's your turn. They fail. They
Right.
fail. Climate change, they're failing. They all to prevent a conflict in Russia and Ukraine, they fail. Now it's polarizing here. The society itself is not ready to handle even the conversation. Uh, um, so who will is us. So how can we accelerate those spaces of learning with each other, with the skill set, with the wisdom of the older generation to co-create anew? We're a place that was not there before. This polarization is deeper than before. It's touching on a lot of historical things. At the same time, the pressure from the outside, which is for me are all these disasters and human-made disasters, are pressing, and there's more bigger gap. So Israel and Palestinians now conflict coming here in the campuses is a good thing. If we take the action to translate the meaning of it into solvable long-term solution to different problem of society, right? But it's not the only the self. How can I engage? And if I'm engaging out the support system, for instance, if you are engaging many times, people like leave or give budget and then leave. The question is now, if you do projects, stay for 5, 10 years. It's not, things are not, people like doing things and leave,
Right.
stay, develop the alternative, create the network, nourish yourself along the way, but create results. If
Great
we don't
result.
have
And
results,
making a commitment to create the results.
yeah, you
Yeah,
can stop and protest and cry, and the world will collapse in front of you, and it's literally starting to happen. But I
absolutely.
don't want to finish in that note.
I do want to say too, you don't have to be someone who's committed to making a world change like Kobi. You can do it on
No.
the ground, grassroots level. I mean, support by money, support by writing a letter, any kind of support that you can give, just on a daily basis. It helps. And like I
Right,
said, that creates your inverted pyramid, that happens. Everyone
right.
needs support to change the world. And it's not just this particular conflict that's happening. As you mentioned, there are things that are happening all over the world that we need to be concerned with. And if
Yeah,
we're
no,
not
I think
concerned
it's
with
the
it, no one will.
opportunity.
It's a
We're talking
huge
about this
opportunity.
mirror. There's the self-mirror and this societal mirror. And the
Right.
societal mirror, I know it's complex in the American environment, but for now, if we can look at this conflict and see, at least from a centric perspective, for that matter, see what we're missing here, how can we transform it? And from that, learn to do all the other problems, because they're coming and they're here.
Right.
And the question is, do we have the leadership to do it? I'm not sure. Do we have each other to support? Yes, but can we create alternatives that are real and life-serving? Then you have to put the sleeves up, and whatever you are, an artist, educator, figuring out your life, there's something to do behind only protests. Protests are wonderful, but I commit to something that is long-term, that you commit to the change and you rely other people on it. So until there is result, but then you learn from the result and you grow.
And you
There's
grow.
no
Absolutely.
grow.
Well, listen, Kobi, I could talk to you forever. I do want to have you back, maybe even on a regular basis, because we need to talk about more world politics and how we can make the world better. If you'd like to do that, please come
Oh,
back.
I hope to be better in a precise next time too.
That's okay. This is how we do it here at One Mic Night. It's all real. It's all live. We just do it. So let everybody know how they can get in touch with you and social
Sure.
media.
I think that LinkedIn, I'm not a big social media person, but I do have LinkedIn, and I post there the work, and there is Interact organization that I'm working with. I can send you, mainly LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm the LinkedIn
Website
person.
too. You have a website also?
Yes, I did for Impact too. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Lead
So make
L. Yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go.
Lead for impact with a 4, not by LEAD for impact. Yeah.
There you go. Make sure you follow Kobi Skolnick. Thank you for coming on One Mic Night. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everybody, please make sure you make an impact on the world. Follow in his lead. You can support by any means necessary your voice, your letter. This is One Mic Night. Follow us at One Mic Night, ONEMICNITE. You can always slide into my DMs on Instagram. It's Marcos Luis, MarcosLuis. Thank you for joining me for this episode. Please like and comment below if you'd like to hear more about how you can change the world and find out more about Kobi and have him back as well. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.